History is something that we all have to understand. We all have to commit to that and say, okay, we're really going to go out and buy scales. If you're a person who's only cooking at home and not in a professional kitchen, most people in a professional kitchen have gram scales, and really enlighten yourself and give yourself the opportunity to really be successful in baking. The whole cup thing, I just.
Well, don't get me started on that.
Yeah, a cup of flour, weighs different. You do 3 cups of flour, it's going to be 3 different weights.
I'm just not scooping them up, but that's a whole
other
different
thing. So why would you do that in a craft that requires precision?
I like to read my cookbooks as much as use them, and I think the stories in this one too, each one seems to get more personal as well. And this one, I mean, you can tell where you've done a lot of the writing in this. You may not do as many of the recipes as your authors, but tell us about how you choose stories to go in and reveal something of yourself and your family.
Yeah, I mean, it's just memories. This book is, when we decided to do this book, which was years ago, and we just got to it because there's so many other things happening in our life that you can't do what you want to do when you want to do it. So it's been about 10 years in the making. And it certainly took 2 years to write it and publish it. So it's been an idea for a long time. And one of the things that for me about the bakeries is about children. So I really wanted to give it somewhat of a childlike tone.
Because you talk about your mother and the cookies and the big cookie jar. You're from a big family, so.
Yeah, 5 older brothers and a younger sister, and we were gracious when it came to cookies. And cookies are one of my favorite things. And she would hide her cookies, which were the pecan sandies, which weren't really our favorite. I think, the flavor profiles of the nut and this is just really what we wanted. But when we ran out of Nutter Butters or Oreos, you better believe we were on top of that counter, digging in the back of the cupboard trying to find pecan sandies. And so that's a memory. Those are those memories. And when you think about this kind of book and the kind of things that are in the book, or walking in the bakery, they really cross all cultural boundaries, and they cross all economic boundaries and all age boundaries. I mean, you could be 6 years old and just starting to develop those memories of your first bouchon. You could be 80 years old and had bouchons for the past 20 years and say have those memories. So the book is, for me, it's all about memories.
And you talk about in the book practice, patience, time, care, and touch when it comes to baking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you really reiterate that. Tell us what you mean by those.
Well,
phrases.
The old story is, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Right? Practice. And people look at us and Sebastian, and professionals and say, I really want to cook like that. Well, how do you think we got to cook like that? It just didn't happen. We weren't born with magic hands. I mean, we practiced, 30 years, 20 years, and it's all about practice. And I think that if you don't practice and get it right, you're probably lucky. And it's something that you really need to pay attention to, and not get discouraged when something doesn't come out the way it looks in the picture. The other thing I always caution people on is trying to be too ambitious with a cookbook, whatever cookbook there is. You always want to start with the simplest and the easiest recipe. Because the most important thing that you can do when you're really embarking on a new book and a new recipe is to be successful. Right? We all want to be successful, so the easiest recipe is the one you should start with, because that's going to help give you confidence and courage.
And you say to do them over and over to get the nuances and
get them
feel.
And so don't take for granted that just because there's a cookbook there that's written by professionals, it gives you all the skills and knowledge that you need to make the recipe the first time. So always start with the easiest one. Take the chocolate chip cookie recipe and make it.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
When we were selling tickets to this event, a lot of the people buying tickets said how much the French Laundry had influenced them and really had got them into cooking. Do you ever feel the weight of that responsibility of what you're writing on the page and your actions and words, how they do influence people? I mean, or you just...
Well, it's certainly not at first. At first, the book is released and it's kind of over, the project's over. And you don't really think about, the first book, The French Laundry, I didn't really think about it.
But it was the impact it had.
I mean, the brilliant thing and the most gratifying thing about writing the French Laundry book was the process of writing it. I mean, we were, it was 14 years ago, and Susie and Michael and Deborah and and the guys from Level, of course, everybody from Metrology, myself, you know, we were like children. You know, we were able to write a book together for our first time. You know what that experience is like. The first time to do something is just a wonderful, magical moment. And I never really wanted to write another book after that. So there's a big space time between the French hobby and Bouchon, about 6 years, because I just had no desire to write another book. But you know, once the book is released and it gets out there, you know, you start to think about, you know, somebody actually, you know, opening up under their Christmas tree. You know, because they wanted the French Army cookbook. I mean, that kind of image is really, you know, an image that, for me, you know, it really resonates, because this is something that has the opportunity to impact somebody's life. I mean, you're right, there's people that come to me and say, you know, I started cooking because I read the French Army cookbook. And you go, really? Like, what was that about?
Not your child, not anybody else.
Yeah, and so you feel blessed because you're able to impact people. And it changes the way you think about what your responsibilities are. And certainly we all have responsibilities, and chefs, you know, restaurant owners have responsibilities for the restaurant. But once you start to hear things like that, you realize your responsibilities are much larger.
Bigger.
Yeah. And you know, you start to develop, you know, a whole new set of goals and a set of philosophies. And you know, you said it, you know, in the beginning, you know, where most chefs are thinking about their restaurants and the progression of their restaurants, the evolution of their restaurants, the success of their restaurants. You know, for me, it's not really about our restaurants; it's about our profession, and help elevate the standards of our profession is truly the goal. And if you do that, then of course, you know, everything underneath is going to follow. I mean, you elevate the standards of your restaurant as well. But your goal is to really have an impact on the profession.
So we have a room full of chefs here at Cookbook, some starting their careers, some still students, and some at the end, I suspect, of their careers. You stepped back from the kitchen, but during your career, how did you know when it was time to change gears? You said when to sort of move it to the next level with philosophy and embrace different things. How at different stages?
I've always embraced the idea of, you know, culture and philosophy and you know, these common goals that we have and teamwork and all these things that work so well. In our restaurant, it's not just about the kitchen, everybody, it's about the restaurant. You know, I continue to hear people call it, you know, the dining room at the front of the house and the kitchen at the back of the house. I mean, in your home, at everybody's home, you don't call your dining room in front of the house, do you? You don't call your kitchen in the back of the house, do you? You call it the dining room in the kitchen. And so, you know, it's just simple things like that, you know, just definitions and that kind of saying, okay, you know, let's bring these two together and make it, and make them really have a common purpose, you know, and try to tie the bonds. And so, you know, it's a kitchen, it's a dining room, the same thing that you have at home. And those are just little ways for us to understand what our restaurants are about, try to establish this sense of teamwork and a sense of philosophy that we want to have everybody embracing as it relates to how they interact.